The year is coming to an end and it's not ending well. Over the last number of years, we've seen a steady increase in unhoused individuals in the United States. From 2022 to 2023, we've jumped from 580,000 to 653,000. And now from 2023 to 2024, we jumped to 770,000, which is an increase of roughly 18.1%. Most concerningly, within this increase, 40% are affected families who can no longer afford housing because it's being pushed outside of their income availability. And every single time local jurisdictions try to enforce some semblance of rent control or perhaps even build more affordable housing units, the builders pull right out. As we've had it happen here locally, we tried to bring rent control into a fold and immediately builders stopped building. Of course, that forced local government to reconsider its moves, and it took rent control back off the table, and magically building continued. But who are we building for? Well, clearly not for those who need it the most, which explains that we have an unprecedented increase in family homelessness. Now, family homelessness means individuals with kids. Kid homelessness is also up at unprecedented levels in the, so to speak, richest country in the world. Who's got those riches, though? Because it clearly isn't the people who are confronted with homelessness. But let me do you one better. The 770,000 are the acknowledged number based on the HUD assessment, the Housing of Urban Development, which is once a year on a cold day in January. But there is a secondary number that's even more concerning, which originates from the New York Coalition of the Homeless. They've run an expanded definition of what actually constitutes homelessness or housing insecurity, and they've run their own data set based on New York City. Now, New York City accounts for roughly 8.4 million individuals living there, and their data points generated 350,000 as the outcome being basically affected by housing insecurity. That's 4.22%. And when we play that data point across the United States, then we're coming up to 14 million plus in the United States experiencing housing insecurities. Now you compound that with roughly 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, and you can see that there is a pretty grim picture unfolding. And it's not getting better, particularly not when the incoming regime already sets to make our cities livable and pretty again, that we must round up all those who are unhoused and stuff them into encampments somewhere in the outskirts on cheap land. That would make our cities livable again. Now you add all those things together and it's really not a good outlook. However, there's perhaps one thing that is the silver lining. Veteran homelessness has gone down to what I believe to remember is about 8%. That's down from 10.4%, which means that the numerous teams that are out there in the communities working with our unhoused veterans are doing just an amazing job, from the VA down to MACV and VASH, picking up people who fell through the cracks in an American system that is purely oriented on how much money can you make them, and that is mostly generated when you're out somewhere in the battlefield. As soon as you return, you're a burden to the system and you're being dropped. So at least there is one positive data point in the minefield of negativity. How are we going to change that? To be honest, the only way to have a positive future is by basically have an uprising and end the travesty that puts the majority in harm's way so that the select few can have an amazing life.